welcome to another episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Well, folks, as we continue on with the new year, might as well talk about another movie. Now, this movie that I'm going to talk about, well, let's just say this is from a film franchise that I'll be honest, I have been overlooking for quite a while. Now, of course, I have seen this film, and of course the franchise that is from, and yes, if you read the title correctly, I'm going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, this movie, of course, the movie, and of course, obviously, the franchise, I have seen. Now, I have seen Indiana Jones since I was in elementary school. I'm not gonna lie, I started watching the Indiana Jones movies when I was in elementary school. In fact, I have all four DVDs of the first four Indiana Jones movies. Although I don't have the Dial of Destiny on DVD, but I have watched it on Disney Plus and sometimes on the FX TV channel as well. Yes, this is obviously a big thing on my part because I grew up watching the Indiana Jones movies when it came out on DVD, and of course seeing the fifth one as well. Of course, the fifth one is not up to par with the previous installments, but it is worth talking about. So anyway, just to move forward, just to move forward, to anyone who is new to the podcast, welcome to Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. If you are listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more content. And if you are listening to this on Podbean and Spotify, don't forget to hit the follow button as well. So there you have it. So let's get back to the movie, shall we? So Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a 2023 American action adventure film directed by James Mangold and written by one, two, three, four. Yes, we have four writers on this movie. So we have James Mangold, David Coep, John Henry Butterworth, and Jez Butterworth. And then, of course, Indiana Jones is based on characters by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, and Simon Emanuel. And the film stars Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas, John Rhys-Davies, Toby Jones, Boyd Holbrook, Ethan Isildur, and Mads Mikkelsen. This movie is set in 1969. The film follows Indiana Jones and his estranged goddaughter, Helena Shaw, who are trying to locate a powerful artifact before Dr. Jurgen Voller, a Nazi turned NASA scientist who plans to use it to alter the outcome of World War II. Now, that sounds like a good plot right there, if the writing allows it. So anyway, cinematography was done by Feldon Papamichael, edited by Michael McCusker, Andrew Buckland, and Dirk Westervelt, with music provided by the legendary John Williams, and it was distributed by Walt Disney Pictures, with Paramount Pictures distributed the movie as well. Yes, so Walt Disney Pictures and Paramount Pictures distributed the movie, but it's mostly Disney who did the distribution. Basically, Paramount Pictures associated with it as well. And of course, Lucasfilm was also involved with it too, because also bring this up, Lucasfilm is in charge of obviously Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Dial of Destiny is the only film in the series not to be directed by Steven Spielberg, because Steven Spielberg directed all four Indiana Jones movies. At one point he was going to, but I believe around this point he stepped down, and I think it was probably creative differences going on, but I'm pretty sure he was working on another movie around this time, because Dial of Destiny came out in 2023, and the year prior to that there was another movie that Spielberg did. It was called The Fablemans, which was actually, quite to be quite honest, The Fablemans is actually a pretty good movie. So obviously, no, Spielberg did not direct this movie, obviously because he was probably working on The Fablemans, but I'm pretty sure there was definitely creative differences going on. And this was actually announced in February 2020. Um, and it was brought up by Kathleen Kennedy, who's the producer of this movie. She said that Spielberg was kind of off and on about directing the project, although he was still on board as an executive producer. So that explains. So this also brings in the attention of James Mangold, who actually previously offered Harrison Ford a role in his Ford versus Ferrari movie that came out in 2019. And of course, they both worked on Call of the Wild, which came out in 2020, to which Mangold produced that movie. Now, obviously enough, there's probably a lot of things going on to why Spielberg left the film. Although, from my point of view, it was probably because of the Fablemans he was doing, and maybe quite possibly creative differences as well, because the Walt Disney Company has had their ups and downs when it comes to executing their movies, right? Making good movies, including writing them and overseeing the movies. This is where James Mangold came in, and I'll be honest, I think that is a nice little change of direction. Although a part of me wishes that Spielberg directed this movie, because I think Spielberg had an idea where he wanted to go with this movie. I don't know what the idea would have been, but it would have been interesting. But I didn't mind James Mangold. I thought James Mangold was a fine choice. I mean, James Mangold, to anyone's knowledge, he directed the two Wolverine movies with Hugh Jackman, the Wolverine that came out in 2013, and Logan. He did I Walk the Line, which is the Johnny Cash biopic with Joaquin Phoenix. He also directed and of course, as I mentioned, he directed Ford versus Ferrari that had Matt Damon and Christian Bale in it. And then, of course, A Complete Unknown, which came out last year. And I thought the movies that he did, I thought they were pretty good. I have seen some of his movies. They're actually pretty good. And I thought James Mangold was a pretty good replacement for Spielberg. But like I said, it would have been interesting to see what Spielberg would have done if he remained on this project. I mean, he kind of did as an executive producer alongside George Lucas. The idea for a fifth Indiana Jones movie dated back to was actually brought up back to the late 1970s, when a deal was made with Paramount Pictures to produce four sequels to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Lucas began researching potential plot devices for a fifth film in 2008, and David Koepp was hired to write the screenplay in 2016. And in 2018, Jonathan Kasdan replaced Koepp, but later left the project. Originally set for release in 2019, the film faced delays due to rewrites and the COVID-19 pandemic. Spielberg was initially set to direct but stepped down in 2020, with Mangold taking over. Filming began in June 2021 in various locations, including the United Kingdom, Italy, Morocco, and filming wrapped in February of 2022. John Williams returned to score the film, and of course, this movie earned John Williams an Academy Award nomination for best score. Plus, John Williams won the Grammy Award for Best Instrumental Composition for Helena's theme, which is the character of Helena Shaw. To which I'm gonna talk about Helena's theme pretty soon, so bear with me on this one as we move forward. So, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny premiered out of competition at the 76th Cannes Film Festival on May 18th of 2023, and was released in the United States on June 30th by Walt Disney Studios Motion Picture. The film received mixed reviews, who praised Harrison Ford's performance and the musical score from John Williams, but criticized its runtime, visual effects, the characterization of Indiana Jones, and resolution, with many deeming it as a disappointing conclusion to the series. And I think that sums it up pretty well, because let's be honest, the fifth Indiana Jones movie, while in my opinion, I thought it was a good film, but I will admit, it wasn't that great at all. And on top of that, the film had a budget. Get this. The film had a net budget of $352.3 million. Let me say that again. It had a net budget of $352.3 million, while the film's gross budget was approximately $419 million. But a tax reimbursement by the United Kingdom brought the net budget down to $352.3 $352.3 million, and it made $384 million back at the worldwide box office. Yeah, I'm going in all in on this one. This is a I can't believe that this movie had that big of a budget. Yeah. We're oh yeah, so now we're moving on to the budget on this one. Now we will be breaking down this movie too, and we will be breaking down this movie too, plus my overall thoughts on this movie as well. So buckle up, folks. You're gonna be in for a long ride. Let me talk about the budget. That budget alone, $352.3 million. I find that to be bullshit. How can you have a film with that big of a budget? Like, I can't not believe that this movie had that big of a budget. Like the previous Indiana Jones movies, their budgets were a lot lower than what Dial of Destiny had. Now, I want to look at the previous budgets for all four Indiana Jones movies. So we're gonna travel back in time a little bit. Starting with the first one. The first one came out in 1981, and it had a budget of $20 million, and that movie made $389.9 million. And that was 1981. The first film had a budget of $20 million, and it made $389.9 million. Of course, the fifth movie doesn't come close to breaking what the first movie had. The first movie, as I mentioned, $389.9 million. Dial of Destiny, $384 million. It didn't come close to breaking that first film's box office. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, it had a budget of $28 million, and it made $333.1 million. The third movie, on the other hand, had a budget of $48 million, and it made $474.2 million. And around that time, 1989, by the way, 1989, when the third Indiana Jones movie came out, that movie was the highest grossing Indiana Jones film at the time, $474.2 million on a budget of $48 million. That was the highest grossing Indiana Jones film at that time. Now, flash forward to 2008, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, to which I want to say this right now. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was my first Indiana Jones movie in theaters. I got to see this movie in theaters back in 2008, and I was 9 years old. Yes, I was 9 years old when that movie came to theaters. Oh my goodness. I didn't really think much about that movie, to be quite honest, but I had a lot of fun watching the first three Indiana Jones movie. Now, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull wasn't great either, but at the same time, it actually had a good ending, in my opinion. It actually had a good ending, and get this, a good send off as well, at least up until the fifth movie. But just to talk about the budget, the film's budget for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was $185 million, and it made $786.6 million at the box office worldwide. And Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is basically the highest grossing Indiana Jones movie. And it had that big of a budget, $185 million. That's a big budget, but even less expensive than what Dial of Destiny had. $352.3 million. Like, are you kidding me? And this is probably because of the rewrites that happened, right? This is probably because of the rewrites and among many other stuff too. Like, why have that big of a budget? Most of the films from the Marvel Cinematic Universe have budgets of 200 to 300 million dollars, mind ya. And look, I don't have a problem with big budget movies. I mean, you can have a big budget if you have a good story, right? Like, you need to have a good story first, and then the money will come in. Like, I feel like that should be a rule of thumb. If you have a good story, then the money will come in, right? And also, to bring this up too while I'm at it, the most expensive movie that Lucasfilm has ever did, and get this, you're not gonna believe this. It was Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not joking. To anybody who's listening, you're probably gonna be telling me, Mark Codo, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is not the most expensive movie. That honor goes to Force Awakens. Well, true that. But if you look it up, the original budget was $275 million for Rise of Skywalker, right? Well, get this. Rise of Skywalker cost about $600 million. Yeah, $600 million. No joke. No, I take that back. Almost $600 million. $593.7 million. That's close to $600 million. And it is the most expensive Star Wars movie, right? It is the most expensive Star Wars movie. So, yeah. Yeah. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the most expensive Indiana Jones movie. So yeah, Lucasfilm has two movies that are basically the most expensive, right? Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Sure, there were probably a couple other Lucasfilms where it had a big budget too, but at the same time, two of their beloved franchise, like two of their films from their beloved franchise has the most expensive budget, right? Oh my goodness, that is just crazy. It's bad enough when your previous films have done so much better at the box office with a better budget, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, Crystal Skull wasn't perfect, but at the very least, it had a story. Dial of Destiny, yeah, I guess you could say it had a story. I mean, I guess you could say it had a story, but there was a lot going on. In fact, even prior to the release of this movie as well, there were definitely there were a lot of early reviews came in, right? There were a lot of early reviews where not everybody was clearly on board, and I'll be honest, I was kind of on the fence about it too. Do we like at one point I was like, do we really need a fifth Indiana Jones movie? But of course we actually got it. Also bring this up too. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is my second Indiana Jones movie to see in theaters. I actually saw this movie on 4th of July weekend in 2023. And I'll be honest, it was a fun ride. I mean, I could definitely say this Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a fun ride, even if it's not a great follow up, right? I mean, we all have different opinions, right? I mean, I'll say this right now. I enjoyed Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, but it's got problems, but it's not that great of but it's not a great follow up. I mean, I'll just say it right there. But like I said, I will deliver my own thoughts on this movie pretty soon. I will deliver my own thoughts on this movie. So anyway, with that being said, just to give him a little more background on this movie, um, Kathleen Kennedy is the producer on this movie, and a lot of people were not really on board with Kathleen Kennedy at all. And the reason being because of how she handled the Star Wars movies, right? After the way she handled Star Wars, everybody was literally turning their backs on Kathleen Kennedy, to be quite honest. And the way how she handled it, the way how she handled it was not that great at all. I kid you not, I have seen multiple YouTube videos and comments where everybody completely turned their backs on Kathleen Kennedy. Like, holy crap, man. It's bad enough when your audience is saying something, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be plenty of people who will still enjoy Star Wars. When it comes to Indiana Jones, that's a whole different story. Many people were worried that this movie would fall into the SJW woke stuff, and I'll be quite honest, it kind of did a little bit, but not entirely. Even to the point where they were trying to make Indiana Jones's goddaughter like the next female lead, taking over for Indiana Jones, like a passing of the torch, right? But in my opinion, I'm like, we already got a female Indiana Jones in the name of Laura Croft, right? Like, Laura Croft is basically the female Indiana Jones, right? And speaking of Laura Croft, there were also rumors of Laura Croft that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was originally going to do. Yeah, I guess Kathleen Kennedy was trying to do like a female Indiana Jones in like in a Laura Croft way, right? But that should be more like a separate project and not within the same franchise, right? I feel like Kathleen Kennedy is leaning more towards on like the whole SJW stuff. In fact, South Park took a jab at that in one of their episodes uh where they actually have where they actually have have a Kathleen Kennedy character in it, and it's basically, and there's one point where where Cartman is Kathleen Kennedy doing this whole shtick of like, put a chicken in and make it lame and gay. Yeah, even it's bad enough when South Park pokes fun of Disney and Lucasfilm, right? Like, yeah, that was South Park's whole thing on that. I mean, oh my goodness, like it is a crazy, crazy episode. I mean, damn, man, damn, it's brutal, right? But anyway, speaking of Helena. I'll be honest, Helena was not that great of a character in this movie, and I will get to more of that later when I break down this movie. But yeah, there was definitely a lot going on in in that movie, right? And then of course Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, like at that time, he was like he was like 79 years old when they were making this movie, right? He was like 79, 80 years old when they were shooting this movie, right? And this movie came out in 2023. So he would have been like 80, 81 with this when this movie hit theaters, right? And to his credit though, he still does a pretty good job though. Like I feel like Harrison Ford, like you got to give Harrison Ford props. Like he is a literal machine at this point. Like he really wanted to go out swinging with he really wanted to go out swinging with this movie. But at the same time, the story wasn't that great. But at the same time, you could definitely tell that Harrison Ford was really trying to make this work. But other than that, let's get to the movie, shall we? How about we break down this movie? So let's go on an adventure and explore Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So the movie opens up with the Walt Disney logo and of course the Paramount Pictures logo and the Lucasfilm logo transitioning to what looks to be a smooth transition of the actual door lock, right? And I think that's a nice little callback to the previous movies where you have the Paramount Pictures logo and it transitions to like a different mountain form, which that is a nice little callback to that. So the movie opens up in 1944 where the Nazis capture Indiana Jones and Oxford archaeologist Basil Shaw, both being played by Harrison Ford and Toby Jones. By the way, this is a flashback sequence. We open this movie up with a flashback in 1944 as the two attempt to retrieve the lance, which is basically the blade that drew Christ's blood from a castle in the French Alps. And of course, Indiana Jones is basically he goes undercover and he's being captured by the Nazis. And of course, yes, the movie de-aged Harrison Ford's face, so we get a pretty good de-aging effect on Harrison Ford. And I'll be honest, this is a good start. No, really, the start of this movie is actually pretty good. We get a flashback sequence where we see Indiana Jones, fighting the Germans, right? The German soldiers in World War II, or the Nazis, right? And so then, of course, he gets. Although, of course, the Nazis try to hang Indiana Jones, but apparently there was a bomb that was going on that the Allies dropped, and Indiana Jones manages to escape when an Allied bomb falls on the bell tower where he was being hanged. The Allied forces were converging on France, and Colonel Weber, who's actually played by Thomas Kretschmann, was in the process of moving all the loot to Berlin on a special train commissioned for this purpose. Basil is loaded on the train and interrogated about the lance. Basil says that the Lance had no power, and he and Indiana Jones were only trying to save some history. So then, an astrophysicist named Jurgen Voller, is it Jurgen or Jurgen? Or just simply Voller? Voller, being played by Mads Mikkelsen, informs his superior, Colonel Weber, as I mentioned, being played by Thomas Kretschmann, that the lance is fake, but he has found half of Archimedes' dial, an Antikythera mechanism built by the ancient Syracusan mathematician Archimedes, which reveals time fissures, allowing for possible time travel. Basil witnesses this exchange between Voller and Weber. And we do get a nice shot of where it was actually outside of the office that Voller was showing the colonel the dial. And if you look closely, and there is a nice silhouette shot of holding the dial. It's silhouetted with the light with the light going through, which I thought was a nice touch, which I thought is a nice touch. Also to mention too that Felden, right? Felden Papa Michael is the cinematographer for this movie, and I'll be honest, Felden Papa Michael did a pretty good job filming this movie. Like I said, he was the cinematographer for this movie, and I think he did a pretty good job. The shot where Voller is holding the dial while the light is shining and there's like a silhouette shot of him, I thought that was really cool. Like Papa Michael sought advice from Spielberg's longtime cinematographer Janusz Kaminski, who worked on Crystal Skull, and Spielberg offered his advice on the script. Watch Dolly's. Yeah, Felden Papa Michael was, taking advice from Spielberg's longtime cinematographer Janusz Kaminski. Hey, that's good advice. You gotta get advice from former cinematographers of how they were able to shoot this movie, right? Nice little thing right there. But anyway, of course, Basil witnesses the exchange between Voller and Weber. So that's the moment where I was talking about that shot, right? And Indy escapes onto a Berlin-bound train filled with looted antiques and frees Basil. And of course, Indiana Jones. He gets his uniform on. Yep, we finally get to see the uniform that he wears: the fedora hat, the leather jacket, the whip, the bag that he carries. Oh man, that is awesome. He attains the dial. So basically, he frees Basil and attains the dial piece from Voller and actually knocks him out unconsciously. And the two leap from the train just before Allied forces derail it. Even around that time, Indiana Jones had to fight Colonel Weber on top of the train, and it's a pretty good fight. We even get callbacks to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull from John Williams. Like the music throughout this movie is good. Like there is new music that John Williams provided, but also original music from the original movies, right? We even get to hear the tank theme from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade throughout this movie too in the opening. But of course, it's obviously the Crystal Skull that is getting recognition as well. It's absolutely amazing to hear these musical callbacks from the previous Indiana Jones movie. I do like how the music ends with it's the scene where Indy and that one Russian officer we're on this rocket, and the music, and we get to hear the theme from Crystal Skull when Indy and the Russian officer were being launched out into the desert, right? And that theme is being played after Basil shot Colonel Weber in the chest, and Indy just kicks him off the train. Oh man, that was good. So then of course, Basil and Jones got the dial, but even before that, Voller tries to get up on top of the train, and of course, he asks for the dial back, but apparently he only got an empty bag. So what happens next is that Voller gets hit in the face by this water tower and gets knocked out full force. That part actually got a laugh out of me. And that part really surprised me because I thought Voller was going to be dead. But nope, Voller is alive. Damn. Like, he would have died. I mean, do you realize how fast that train was going? Like, Voller would have died instantly, especially from the full force of that water tower that hit him in the face. But of course, he's still alive. But anyway, just to move forward, you have Indiana Jones and Basil Shaw go home with the dial. So then we flash forward 25 years later in 1969. Indiana Jones is retiring from Hunter College in New York City, and apparently his wife, Marion Ravenwood, recently filed for legal separation after their son, Mutt Williams, was killed in Vietnam War. And if you also pay attention to, there is an American flag that is actually in a triangular shape, and I'm pretty sure it is in a one of those little triangular cases too. It's basically telling you, it's basically, I'm pretty sure it represents a fallen soldier, right? Because apparently in this movie, Mutt Williams, Shia LaBeouf's character, went to Vietnam to fight in the Vietnam War, right? And he was killed, and he was killed in it. So you see that little flag too, and I'm pretty sure there were also pictures of Mutt Williams as well, including Marion Ravenwood. Like there is a couple of scenes where we see Marion Ravenwood's picture, right? And on top of that, Indiana Jones is basically, he's basically stripped away of everything. Like he not only lost his son, but he's basically separated from his wife, and he's basically in this rundown apartment as well, right? Like, really? Like, are you kidding me? This is how this movie's opening up. Like, 20 minutes into this movie, like, yeah, 20 minutes after the train sequence, 20 minutes after the flashback sequence, we finally see Indiana Jones in 1969. He's basically in this rundown apartment being a drunk. A drunk old man, so to say. Oh, man. So anyway, Indy is teaching a class on how Rome invaded Syracuse in Sicily in 213 BC. Archimedes was a brilliant mathematician and an inventor in Syracuse who devised a solution to use concave mirrors to harness the sun's heat to set the Roman armada on fire. The Antiky theorem is the only real proof from history that all of this ever happened. So then, while Indy is teaching, Indy was asking questions to his students about the Battle of Syracuse, right? And Helena Shaw, who's being played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and in my opinion, I'm gonna be honest, I thought they introduced Helena Shaw pretty good in this part of this movie, so bear with me on this one. So Helena Shaw answers Indy's questions, and of course, when Indy is basically, retired from his job, he goes to the bar to have a drink, and Helena Shaw basically, I guess you could say, basically follows in because Helena Shaw is basically Indy's goddaughter and wants him to research the dial. In fact, when Helena Shaw was little, Indy used to call her Wombat, right? So with that going on, Helena still believes that the dial is back in the French Alps and wants Indy's help to find it. But Indy warns that her deceased father, Basil, became obsessed with studying the dial before relinquishing his half to Indy to destroy, which he never did. Indy tells Helena that Basil believed that Archimedes had figured that the movement of the moon and the planets were not regular. And those irregularities could cause fissures in time, and the dial was an instrument built by Archimedes to predict those fissures. And of course, this is also the brightness of it. It is also the time of the moon landing as well, because in 1969, this is also where all the astronauts were doing the moon landing back in 1969, right? Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and I'm pretty sure a couple of other, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing one other astronaut, but yeah, the moon landing. This is also the year of the moon landing as well, and there was a parade going on in New York City as well. So yeah, So it is the time of the moon landing, and the city of New York is celebrating the return of its astronauts from the moon. Voller, who is in New York City as well, and he's one of the scientists who worked on the rockets who put the Americans on the moon. Voller still smarts from the German loss in World War II and says that Adolf Hitler lost the war due to his ego. Voller is with a team of agents, or should I say, a small. He's basically teaming up with some of the with a small group of Nazis, right? Like we get one whose name is Hawk, being played by Oliver Richards, and Clabber, being played by Boyd Holbrook. To which you may remember Boyd Holbrook for playing one of the main villains. He played Donald Pierce. Donald Pierce. He was one of the main villains in Logan. That's the character that Boyd Holbrook played. Also, to bring this up, Boyd Holbrook also played Johnny Cash in the Complete Unknown movie that James Mangold also did too. So then we also get a CIA agent named Mason, who is being played by Shawnette Renee Wilson, who are looking for Helena Shaw. In my opinion, this was the only good thing to come out of Helena, at least in the beginning of this movie. You know, Helena reuniting with Indiana Jones to look in the college archives for to retrieve the half of the dial, right? But apparently, Voller's accomplices attack them, and the CIA assists Voller, now working for NASA on the Apollo program. Helena, revealed as an antiquities smuggler, absconds with the dial to auction it on the black market. And yes, this is a start of where we see Helena's true colors, right? And on top of that, she frames Indy for the murder of two colleagues, forcing him to escape from both through both the New York ticker tape parade for the crew of Apollo 11 and an anti-war protest. It doesn't get crazier than this. Yeah, what a way to introduce Indy's goddaughter, who's basically rebellious, right? She's basically a rebellious character throughout this movie, right? Like at one point she seems sweet, right? But no, she backstabbed Indy, framed him, mind ya, for the murder that he did not commit. By the way, even Indy called out Helena's name, right? And that's when she was escaping the archives, right? And oh my goodness, yeah, what a way to introduce your character. Have her backstab her father's friend, right? Because Indiana Jones and Basil Shaw did important things on their adventures, right? Well, of course, obviously, their important adventures was archaeology. So anyway, when that is going on, Indy escapes the Nazis through the parade, especially the protesters, right? They're basically protesting the Vietnam War, and of course, Indy chants this "Hell no, we won't go" line to all the protesters, and all the protesters were all falling in on this chant. Hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. And that seems to work as Indy escapes both the Clobber and Hawk. In fact, Indy takes one of the protesters' signs, hits Hawk, but it doesn't even break. Like, yeah, this is like a callback to the big guy, right? You know, the movies where Indy has to fight these big guys, right? So Indy escapes. He rides on this horse through the parade, by the way. And I'll be honest, I mean, yeah, they kind of did film this on somewhat on location, but at the same time, it does look a bit artificial at times. Yeah, you can definitely tell the parade sequence is a bit artificial, especially the fact that you can definitely tell there is a stand-in for Harrison Ford whenever Harrison Ford is doing some of the stunts. While on the subject of stand-in, Anthony Ingruber played young Indiana Jones during the flashback sequence, and he actually portrayed a younger version of Ford's character William Jones in The Age of Adeline in 2015, serving as the on-set body double before Ford's de-aged likeness, and the voice was inserted over in Gruber's using and the voice was inserted over in Gruber's using CGI for brief parts of the 1944 scenes. Plus, Plus, Ingruber also played a hotel guest attending Helena's auction. So yeah, Indy rides the horse and also escapes the subway too. Even he rides on the subway too. He even said this line, "Subway's faster." So then, while that's going on, Indy seeks out his friend Sala, being played by John Reese Davis, now a New York cab driver, and he knocks out this one guy who's about to expose Indy, but Sala came in, socks the dude in the face, and he was like, "Sorry, Indy, there was a lot of traffic going on. There was some kind of traffic going on one of the bridges." But anyway, Voller abandons the CIA agents and goes after Helena and Clobber and Hawk. So he charters a private plane to Morocco, right? So they both go to Morocco to track down Helena. Sala surmises Helena will likely auction the dial in Tangier, as she was arrested there earlier, and then helps Indy flee the country. Apparently, Helena was in with one of the guys, right? I guess one of the mobsters, right? So yeah, you could definitely tell Helena Shaw is pretty messed up. Like I believe it's also mentioned too that she was in a relationship with one of the mobster's sons, by the way, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Helena Shaw, like she was basically messed up. She basically messed up. But of course, I guess you can say this is also at the point where Indy and Basil have been on many adventures, and of course, obviously enough, Helena Shaw. We do get another flashback of where we see Helena Shaw as a young girl, right, little girl, right, and that's pretty much it. There's even a shot of young Helena Shaw through the plane window that Helena is riding on, and on top of that, it's like she's looking at her child self, right? You know, and I think this is kind of like hinting that this is like it's kind of like looking yourself in the mirror, right, and realizing what have I become. But no, she doesn't buy that and decides to go to this auction, right? I think you could definitely. I feel like there is hinted that Helena Shaw may have second thoughts, right? Regretting some of these actions, but no, that's not what the writing did at all. Even in my mind, when I was listening to Helena's theme, right? Now, I'm just gonna go off topic right now. I want to talk about Helena's theme. So John Williams composed Helena's theme for this movie, and I'll be honest, I actually liked Helena's theme. Basically, especially the violin solo, right? Now, just to give some background, um, Helena's theme is basically specifically for Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, Helena Shaw, whom he described as a combination of an adventuress and a femme fatale. Yeah, I guess you could say she's somewhat of a femme fatale since she was the one who framed Indiana Jones for a murder that he did not commit, right? And then, of course, getting messed up with this one mob boss, right? He said he had great fun writing the theme, which he said was very romantic and kind of the old Hollywood style. I mean, that's pretty much it right there, but I wouldn't say very romantic, although I guess you could say it is romantic, more in the Indiana Jones, Marion Ravenwood type of thing right there. But Helena Shaw, I mean, well, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, Helena Shaw did get messed up with this one mobster, but at the same time, really, I always see this as more of a theme of isolation. Because come to think of it, Helena Shaw has been on the run a lot. And her father and Indy were basically doing all these adventures, right? We even get a scene where Basil is basically going insane about the dial, right? He was even at one point about to destroy it. Even Indy was like, "What are you doing? You don't do this in front of your daughter. You're going insane." It was something like that. And this could be the point where I feel like, I mean, this is just coming from me. This is just my take on this. I feel like Helena Shaw has been completely isolated, right? Now, in my opinion, there's like moments where she almost delved into like her regrets, but at the same time immediately cuts back to being snippy, right? She's got these quippy lines, right? She's being quippy, right? Kind of like, like one of those being quippy, right? Being like one-liners, right? The theme itself, it makes me feel, it feels like some sort of like, yeah, something to feel romantic, but also at the same time isolated too, right? It almost feels like thoughts of regret, right? With a hint of romance, right? Like, and I feel like that could have at least fit in with Indy himself, right? Because Indy is separated from Marion, and I'm pretty sure there's probably times where he thinks about her, right? Even his son Mutt Williams, who, man, remind you, was killed off in Vietnam, and I feel like, and of course, I think that the reason behind that was because Shia LaBeouf did not like his character Mutt Williams, even though it is one of those movies that kind of put him on the map for Hollywood. But at the same time, I feel like there's a hint of isolation in this song. It's very sad too. It's got that sad feeling as well, and depressing too. And I feel like if this was the intention for Helena Shaw, I feel like Helena Shaw at that point, if this was the writing intention they were gonna go for at one point, was to have Helena have these feelings of regret, isolation, depression, right? That's just coming from me. Now that's just coming from me. And I want to hear your thoughts on Helena's theme. Let me know in the comments on what you thought of Helena's theme, or if I'm missing something from that. But this is just my own take. But yeah, I enjoyed Helena's theme throughout the movie, even if Helena's character was not that great. But anyway, let's move forward. We finally we do on the other hand get a nice moment from Indy and Sala before Indy left for Tangier, right? I mean, we get a moment where Salah's like, "I miss the desert. I miss the seas." And of course, India's like, "These days have come and gone." But Salah's like, "Well, perhaps not." And before Indy leaves to track down Helena, Salah delivers this line: "Give him hell, Indiana Jones." I guess that's the motivation line that Salah gave to Indy, right? I guess a bit of motivation, right, for Indy, right? So then we get to Tangier, and Indy is back in his uniform. I mean, obviously, obviously, you can't forget the uniform. I mean, that is an awesome moment right there. So Indy disrupts Helena's illegal private auction. Yeah, you screw up big time, huh, Helena? But Voller and his henchmen arrive and steal the artifact. There's even a moment where there's like this back and forth conversation, like where Indy sees Voller, and Voller is like, "Have we met?" But Indy was like, "I don't know, but your face rings a bell." Like, yeah, that face rings a bell because his face got hit by that water tower. Or is it that bell? Is it really a bell? I don't know. I forgot. But yeah. But at this point, shouldn't Voller have like a scar on his face after being hit full force from that? I mean, he would have got a he should have had a at that point he should have had a scar, right? Or if they were really wanting to do this, could it have been one of Voller's, family relatives, right? Going after Indy as a little revenge plot of some sort. Jurgen Voller would have been dead at that point after being hit full force by that water tower. But that's just my opinion. But at that point, he should have had a scar, right? That would have been a blunt force scar on his face. But while that's going on, they were talking about how the dial was being stolen. But of course, Helena Shaw said this. This line was really cringy, but at the same time, I'm like, oh man. But here it is. Helena says, oh yeah, about the stealing part too. But hey, it's called capitalism. But at the same time, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But in my mind, I'm like, well, apparently the film had a lot of capitalism on the budget rather than earning capitalism on the box office. So apparently that line doesn't make sense, but at the same time, it got me thinking of the budget and the box office, right? So then everybody fights over the dial. We even get a moment where Indy takes out his whip and tries to whip all the guys at the auction, including the big guy as well. And he says, "Get back." But everybody pulls out their guns, by the way, and starts shooting Indy. But I guess you could say is a callback to the first movie as well, when he was fighting the big guy with the sword, and Indy just shoots the bastard. That scene alone was actually improvised, by the way, in the first Indiana Jones movie. So yeah. The first Indiana Jones movie where Indy fights the big guy with the sword, and Indy shoots him. That's an iconic scene, but also improvised, and that scene made headlines of how that scene happened. So while that's going on, we even get introduced to Helena's teen sidekick, Teddy Kumar, being played by Ethan Isidore, who chases them through the streets in a tuk tuk, which is those carts. The CIA intercepts Voller after the U.S. government disavows him for going rogue. Mason tells Voller that the U.S. government never cared about the dial and only agreed to help Voller to keep him happy. But his rogue actions and those of his associates has detained his credibility, and Mason refuses to take him anywhere other than back to the U.S. But his cohorts murder the agents and steal the helicopter. By the way, his secret name was basically Schmidt, right? Like even Voller tells Indy, "Oh, you must be mistaken. I'm Doctor Schmidt." But nope, his actual name is Voller. Actually, coming to think of it, while we're on the subject, and coming to think of it, this is also post World War II, by the way, because Jurgen Voller, who is the astrophysicist and former Nazi during World War II, at least in this movie, was hired by NASA under the name Dr. Schmidt to run the Apollo moon landing program while using CIA assets for his own gain. And actually, the character of Voller is based upon real life Nazi Werner von Braun, while his dressing style is inspired by that of previous Indiana Jones villain Major Arnold Ernst Todt, whom Mickelson deemed iconic due to Ronald Lassie's performance, but made sure to avoid copying, in addition to denying any connection between the two. So that's a little bit of trivia right there. So yeah, we do get this tuk tuk chase, and I'll be honest, it is a pretty fun chase. There's even a moment where Helena's, I guess, fiance, the mobster that she was screwing with, by the way, and they go on this chase, right? They go on this chase through Morocco, and while that's going on, they were also chasing the Nazi. They're also chasing the Nazis who also have the who also have the Nazis who also, I guess, it's the dial too. Yeah. Also, the mobster is named Aziz Rahim. That's the fiance that's basically the boyfriend, I guess, that Helena Shaw is engaged to. Yeah. What you realize how messed up Helena Shaw is? Even Helena Shaw denies she's in complete denial. Even at one point where she even calls Indy an old grave robber. Although at the same time, I did kind of find it funny because Indy and Mutt Williams in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did we're definitely digging in the graves for the Crystal Skull. I wouldn't say they were grave robbers, but you could definitely understand that. Even India's like, "Hey, I know, grave robber. Your father and I did important stuff." I mean, that's true, right? But even then, we do get a moment where Helena, who's like driving with Teddy in this tuk tuk cart, and Indy was like, "How are you in this mess? Selling your soul for bail money?" And then of course Helena and Teddy do this. Oh man, it's a cringing moment of like hell. You can definitely tell Helena is in complete denial. She's just basically flexing, right? She's flexing, stating that like, "Oh yeah, I'm being the greatest of all time," right? No, that's not the case. She's basically in full denial, right? Like that is cringy. Like that is just cringy. I mean, that was just cringy. She insults Indy throughout the middle portion of this movie. Oh man, it's just basically right. Like even like she's basically insulting her own godfather, right? We even get a moment where he's like, she even tells like the people at the auction like, oh, he's probably related, and of course even Teddy was like, even Teddy was like, so is Indy running the show, and Helen was like, he's not running the show, and then of course Teddy was like, I thought we were just in this for all the wrong reasons. Even Helen, I was like, we are most assuredly. Like, yeah, you know you're doing this for the wrong reason, huh, Helena? And Teddy Kumar is no better either. Like uh Teddy Kumar is no better either. But Teddy Kumar is just basically recycled short round, right? Minus the good stuff of what short round have. Like Teddy Kumar in this movie, just to go off topic, Teddy Kumar is basically a thief and he likes planes. And yeah, Short Round was a bit of a thief too, but that was just a trait of his character, right? Even he was on Indy's side the whole time throughout Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But Teddy Kumar, he was just another. Oh man, he was just a recycled version of Short Round, minus the good stuff of what Short Round was, right? Just to move forward in this movie, yeah. So Voller already shot his agents, revealing his true name being Voller. So Indy knows that the tablet containing instructions to the other half of the dial is in the Aegean Sea, and before that is going on. So then, while that is going on, Indy is trying to fix this tuk tuk with not only water but also some of the gum that Teddy was chewing on. Also, on top of that, Teddy also stole Indy's watch, and I do like this moment from Helena where she tells Teddy, "Give him the watch back." Like she comes to realize that, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, let's not do that. Oh gosh, and Hela's like, oh gosh, just give it back, just give him the watch back, because the watch belonged to Indy's father, right, Henry Jones, right? Yeah, you don't want to steal. Yeah, don't steal a watch that used to belong to a family member. Don't do that. So while Helena has the coordinates to to the other part of the dial, Indy has friends who can help them get to the other part of the dial, right? So Indy, Helena, and Teddy trail Voller to Greece and team up with Indy's old friend Ronaldo, and who's being played by Antonio Banderas, who is a professional sea diver. And by the way, we do get the nice map moments where we see Indy traveling across to different locations. I do like that map that we get. So keeping the tradition of all the Indiana Jones movies of with that map. That's a nice little callback. Guided by Basil's research, they dive to an ancient sea, Aegean Sea shipwreck. It was a Roman ship that Helena speculates was carrying the Graphicos and one half of the dial, and was looking for the second half. The first half of the dial was recovered from the wreck, but the majority of the ship was resting on the ocean floor, another 100 feet down, which was not accessible back then. Helena believes this is where the Graphicos is and retrieve a Graphicos tablet containing directions to the dial's other half. Helena asks Indy where in history he would go if he got the dial, to which he tearfully replies back to stop Mutt from enlisting the fight in Vietnam, thus preventing Mutt's death and the disintegration of his and Marion's marriage. So so yeah, we do get a nice moment between Helena and Indy about Indy sharing his story with Marion and Mutt. Although although to me at that point I didn't really care that much between Helena and Indy about that story, but I was more leaning on Indy because Indy just he lost his marriage to he lost them he separated from his wife and lost his son, right? That's gonna have repercussions. But at this point, Helena doesn't seem to care. I really wish there was a moment where Helena was in Indy's shoes, right? Realizing what Indy was going through and how to like getting out of her comfort zone, realizing oh yeah, he really did do important stuff. You know, that sort of thing, right? Like, but no, we don't really get that at all. That's not what the writing did at all. So anyway, yeah, Helena Indy did scuba diving, and I thought that was a pretty cool sequence. Although they were definitely attacked by eels, but we do get a moment where Helena rescues Indy from the eels, which I thought was pretty cool. But we don't get any snake references, right? Except for one moment where Teddy Kumar sees the eels and says they look like snakes. And Indy was like, no, they don't. But I really wish there was a moment where we see an actual snake and Indy being scared of it, because throughout the Indiana Jones movie, Indy is basically afraid of snakes, right? There is like one scene at least where Indy is where we are where everyone's reminded that Indy is afraid of snakes. We see that twice in the first movie where the pilot Jock has a pet snake and is basically sitting in Indy's lap, and he freaks out. Jock is like, "Oh, that's my pet snake, Reggie!" And then we get the snake pit during the Soul scene, right, where Indy has a bit of a staring contest with that one cobra. Oh man, that was that was just rough. And then we do get another moment, and of course we get another one in the second one where Willie Scott throws a snake at Indy. Although she doesn't know it was a snake, she thought it was the elephant's trunk. And I'm telling you, that was not the elephant's trunk. It was an actual snake. And then the third one, where young Indiana Jones falls into a box of snakes. That was when River Phoenix was playing young Indiana Jones in that movie, just for that flashback. And then the fourth one, when Mutt Williams was pulling out Marion and Indy from the quicksand. Indy thought it was a rope that Mutt was using, but no, it was a rat snake, right? Which was basically the rope, right? So yeah, we don't really get it. We don't see an actual snake in this movie, but we only get one reference from Teddy Kumar saying they look like snakes, and Indy was like, no, they don't, referring to the eels. That's the only callback. It would have been fun. It would have been fun to have a little snake moment, but whatever. So anyway, the Voller and his men arrive to take over Ronaldo's boat. The Graficos tablet has a message written in Polybius cipher, which Voller cannot understand. He forces Indy to decipher the tablet by killing Ronaldo, and my goodness, they just wasted Ronaldo's last life. By the way, Puss in Boots 2 came out before Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, to which Puss in Boots was trying to get his 9 lives back. He was on his last life, by the way, in the Puss in Boots movie, right? Puss in Boots himself, the cat. Although it would have been amazing to do a sword fight with that, but oh man, yeah, they killed Ronaldo. They killed the great Ronaldo. Even the Grown Ups movie, there was a joke about Ronaldo. Like it was basically some soap opera show that Kevin James's character was watching in Grown Ups 2, and the two nurses thought they killed Ronaldo. And Ronaldo was like, "Really? You two nurses thought you could kill the great Ronaldo?" Oh, that was a scene. That was an actual scene in Grown Ups 2, believe it or not. It's like where the two nurses thought they killed the great Ronaldo, right? But apparently Voller killed the great Ronaldo in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, yeah? When you have a good actor like Antonio Banderas, right? Oh man, like Antonio Banderas' role was more of a cameo, by the way, just to throw this out there, but anyway, just to move forward, so anyway, Helena offers to decipher the tablet for $100,000. Yeah, yeah, well, I mean, yeah. What a great sidekick. Helena working with the Nazis, huh? For $100,000. However, however Voller gives her, I guess, small diamonds. You know, hey, diamonds are forever. I guess they're a girl's best friend, right? But anyway, yeah. There's even a moment where I'm like, where there's a moment when Helena is just trying to decipher the tablet, but she completely insults Indy. Right? She was like, "Oh, why you looking so sad, Indy? Huh? Oh, come on, you could have done this too." I was just kind of grinding myself on this one. Like, come on, guys, don't do Indy like that. Having Helena Shaw just rubbing Indy's face, like. Ugh, I mean, come on, guys. Don't do that to Indy. I mean, come on, guys. Don't make an ass out of Indy. Come on. Oh man, but at the same time, Helena has a plan, has a trick up her sleeves or pocket, I should say, while Helena translates the instructions to the tomb of Archimedes, which has been undiscovered for 2,000 years. Apparently, Helena has dynamite in her pockets, and Indy's group escapes and heads to Sicily, pursued by Voller. Turns out Helena had misguided Voller. The tomb was not in Alexandria, but in Sicily. And they escape on Voller's boat, and Indy's like, "My friend was killed," and Helena's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Really? You couldn't have a nice little moment of silence for Ronaldo, right?" I mean, Indy's got other friends too. I mean, Sala too. I mean, but Ronaldo, we don't really heard much. We never heard much about Ronaldo. But at the same time, Indy's gonna have some friends, right? Even Dan Aykroyd's character in the second Indiana Jones movie was a cameo, but even then, that was pretty quick. So anyway, Indy melts that. It's basically Indy melts the tablet, and because the tablet's made of wax, right? And they found the other half of the dial, right? And they got the part of the dial. They go inside the ear of Dionysius cavern. Indy and Helena find Archimedes' tomb in the dial's second half, right? And the pair also discover a 20th century wrist watch on Archimedes' skeleton and a carving of a phoenix with propellers on his tomb. Also to mention too, they go to when they go to Sicily. There is a puppet show going on about the Battle of Syracuse, and of course, while they go inside, and of course, Teddy is being captured by the Nazis, and of course, while Teddy's being captured by the Nazis, we get moments when Indy and Helena are climbing on this wall, and of course, Indy's telling Helena, "You have no idea what I've been through. I have aches in my back." I have cracks and aches in my back all around me too. You didn't drink the blood of Kali Ma or being tortured by voodoo, that sort of stuff, referencing Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. We even get another reference to that when they go through this corner and they're basically covered in bugs, right? Basically the bugs from the second movie, right? And then of course the Nazis have Teddy Kumar handcuffed, and Teddy is handcuffed to the big guy, right? Oliver Richards' character, Hawk. The two trip into this rapid river bank, and of course Teddy traps the guy, handcuffs the guy to this cage, right? And he just screams underwater, and that's it. We don't even get a fight between Indy and the big guy, although I guess you could say with Indy's age it kind of makes sense. But it would have been funny if the big guy shows up again just to throw down on Indy once they found the other half of the dial, and Indy just shoots the guy, right? Shoots the big guy instead of engaging in a fight, and he would have been like, "I should have done that. I should have done that to these guys a long time ago." Because there's one scene in every Indiana Jones movie where he fights a big guy, from the mechanic to the big thuggy guard to the Nazi officer to the Russian officer, and of course this other Nazi guy who's just basically a big giant man who looks like the Hulk, right? That's Oliver Richards' character, by the way. The guy, he's basically a strong guy. He's got big muscles. He's like the Hulk in this movie, but apparently that guy drowned in that movie. So then Voller is there. After reassembling the dial, Voller reveals his plans to time travel back to 1939 to assassinate Adolf Hitler and help lead Germany to victory in World War II. Voller and his team change into their Nazi attire to prepare for their time travel. And by the way, Indy gets into a gunfight with the Nazi officers for a few seconds, but apparently this was down when they found the dial, when they found part of the other dial. Indy gets shot, right? Like Indy gets shot, right? And this is the moment when Helena realizes that, oh no, Indy is in trouble, right? So her and Teddy are going after Indy and the Nazis, right? Like Indy is completely wounded, right? Indiana Jones is wounded. Now, it's not the first time he got shot in the shoulder. Like he got shot in the shoulder in the first movie, by the way. So anyway, they go to an airfield. Voller activates the dial and locates a time fissure in the sky. Indy is held captive on Voller's stolen plane, which is also painted in Nazi colors, while Hona stows away through its landing gear, and Teddy follows them in another plane. And while approaching the fissure, Indy realizes that the continental drift could have altered the timeline coordinates. Rather than 1939, the group arrives at the siege of Syracuse in 214 BC. By the way, Indy tries to warn Voller, like, what are you doing? Archimedes didn't know nothing about continental drift. You don't know what you're dealing with. Um, Boyd Holbrook's character punches him, socks him in the face just to shut him up. Like he's just like, "Shut the hell up, Indy. You don't know what you're talking about." But I do know what Indy's talking about, right? Even Voller tries to abort the mission at one point, and once they go through the wormhole, um, Voller at one point he's victorious. He's saying like, we did it." But no, he comes to realize that he's not in Germany or Poland, I should say. 1939, right? He and his men, including Indy and Helena and Teddy, they're in 214 BC, the siege of Syracuse. The Waring armies shoot down Voller's plane, believing it as a dragon. Indy and Helena parachute out just before the plane crashes, killing everyone aboard while Teddy lands safely. I do like this moment. There is a moment where Helena is just hanging on for dear life, like she's a damsel in distress. Indy was like, "What are you doing?" Helena was like, "Rescuing you." But in my mind, if I was in Indiana Jones's shoes, I'd be like, "Doesn't look like it." Because Helena is hanging on for dear life, and it's basically like, well, Indiana Jones has to rescue his goddaughter now, right? So other way around. As Indy was about to jump with Helena on the with the parachute, Voller was gonna like was trying to get the parachute back, but no. But no, I think it was Helena who shot, or maybe it was Indy. I think it was Helena shot Voller, and of course, Voller's in complete shock, and Indy and Helena land safely while Voller and all the other Nazis crash land on the beach. While the death was over the top, it wasn't as crazy as some of the other over the top deaths in the other Indiana Jones movies. Like the first Indiana Jones movie, for example, like Belloc, Tot, and Dietrich had their faces melted and exploded after opening the Ark. Even the big Nazi officer gets shredded by the blades from this big airplane. And then in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the big thuggy gets crushed by this roller, and then Balaram gets his hand burned and falls to his death in a river of crocodiles, while the Nazi officer in the third Indiana Jones movie falls over a cliff with the tank, and Donovan gets his face and body disintegrating after making a poor choice on drinking the wrong holy grail. And then of course the Russian officer gets sucked into an anthill with the help of these big damn ants from the fourth movie. Those little ants in the fourth movie? Yeah, those are big damn ants. And then on top of that, Dr. Irina Spalko gets disintegrated and her eyes burnt out by this alien, right? And what we get for Voller? Well, a plane crash. As over the top as that is not as memorable. Although we do see his burnt body dead. on the beach as Archimedes finds him, and then of course the watch and the dial, and of course Archimedes is like Eureka. So then Archimedes investigates the crashes and finds Voller's body, wristwatch, and the dial in the wreckage. And then, of course, tells Indy and Helena that he created the dial to bring users from the future through fissures that led only to his time. In order to obtain their assistance in the battle against the overwhelming Roman force, as the fissure begins to collapse, a wounded Indy decides to remain behind, feeling he has nothing to return to. Helena, fearing a time paradox and unwilling to give up on him, she knocks him out unconsciously. For a moment in this movie, we finally see Helena not being a narcissist and begs Indy not to stay in the past. And of course, telling Archimedes, look, you're an amazing mathematician, but look, we got people back in our time who can help him, give him medicine, give him good healing. I feel like we could have gotten a moment, like, the moment between Indy and his father at the end of the third movie where Indy was trying to grab the Grail, right? But his father was like, Indiana, let it go. You know, why didn't we have a moment between Indy and Helena? Like Helena just like, goes on her knees and begs Indy to come home, telling him like, I feel like this is the moment where Helena should have get out of her comfort zone and tell Indy, look, yes, Indy, I messed up big time, okay? I really did. I know I was arrested. I know I messed up with this one mobster guy. I know I framed you for murder that you didn't do, but please, you're the only family I have left. Please just come home. I'll help you. All right, I'll help you. Something like that. She should have begged. That would have been a nice character moment right there. That would have been a nice character moment, but also maybe a moment where Indy kind of like, he thinks to himself for a bit, and then the camera cuts to black. And it leaves us wondering, did Indy go back to the past or not? Did Indy stay in the past or did he went back home? That sort of thing. But no, we get Helena socking Indy in the face just to knock him out. So then we go back to 1969, and of course Indy is recovering. Indy is recovering in his apartment in New York City. Helena, Teddy, Sala, and of course Marion Ravenwood, being played by Karen Allen. They're all there, and everyone. And of course, Indy and Marion reconcile, and while everyone else leaves, we get a shot of where the camera was about to cut to black, but Indy grabs the hat real quick and then cuts to black. I mean, I thought that last moment was pretty good, but other than that, that's the end of the movie. So yeah, there we go. And then the credits roll. Although one complaint I have about the credits is that the opening, I feel like the credits with all the names of the actors, and then who did the editing, who did the music, obviously John Williams, right? I mean, that's obvious. I mean, I feel like that part should have come at the beginning of the movie rather than the end of the movie, right? You could have just had the credits roll, right? And then on top of that, we hear the Indiana Jones theme, but that's played in the beginning of the credits instead of like having it during the rolling credits, right? We could have had that, and then it ends with dun, 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 end of credits, right? That should have happened. I mean, that should have happened, but we didn't really get that. I mean, isn't that like the tradition of many Indiana Jones movies where we have the whole Indiana Jones theme play while the credits are rolling, right? And then it ends, and then it ends with the last few notes of the theme, right? We should have gotten that at the for the end of the rolling credits, right? Not when the credits are still, right? That's just my opinion. I mean, that's just coming from me. That's just my opinion. But other than that, that's pretty much it about that movie. So there you have it, folks. That is my breakdown on this movie. I mean, it's a lot to talk about, but from a film franchise that I have seen, I mean, it's something to talk about. Now, my overall thoughts. Now, I enjoyed this movie, but I will admit there are flaws in this movie. I've already talked about a little bit of it at the beginning of this episode, but I'm just gonna say this again. Helena Shaw in this movie was not a good character at all, in my opinion. She was not a good character. Like at the beginning, she seems nice, but at the same time, she backstabbed Indy. And then in the middle of the movie, she's just basically being a narcissist and basically being in denial of everything. Like, she's trying to tell the audience, oh yeah, I'm the greatest of all time. I'm smart, I'm capable, I can do this all by myself. Well, Marion and Willie Scott were capable characters, but they didn't really spoon feed the audience. Marion Ravenwood, for example, like she's an awesome female lead. Like Marion Ravenwood is awesome. She didn't really spoon feed the audience of how capable she is. She shows the audience how capable she is. And then maybe Willie Scott, maybe a little bit of Willie Scott in the Temple of Doom. Like, yeah, Willie Scott was not a great character either, but at the very least, she tried to help Indy throughout the movie too, right? And Elsa, and then of course Elsa for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was a complete traitor too. Like, oh my goodness, yeah, Elsa was a traitor in that third one, and she backstabbed Indy, and she got her comeuppance at the end. Well, I guess she couldn't let it go, huh? Like, I feel like that's what Helena's character was like. She's trying to be like this backstabber, kind of like what Elsa was, but it didn't work out that good. I feel like the writing for that didn't work out for Helena. It's like the writers weren't being consistent with her character at all. Even though, yeah, she is snappy at times, which is cool and all, but at the same time, I'm like, nah. Helena was just basically, a narcissistic character. I mean, and like I said about Helena Steen feels like isolation and depression at times too. Even though it is basically her theme, there's like a hidden layer that has never been addressed at all throughout the movie, right? Like that could have been something that could have been addressed, but that's not what the writers did, nor what Kathleen Kennedy did. By the way, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she's a good actress on her own level, but I did not like her character at all. Even in her role in Solo: A Star Wars Story as that one droid, by the way, that basically Lando Calrissian's droid, I didn't really care much for Phoebe's character in that Han Solo movie at all. But at the same time, yeah, you can definitely tell that Phoebe Waller-Bridge has worked with Kathleen Kennedy before. And that's another thing too. It feels like a Kathleen Kennedy movie, not a James Mangold movie at all. It seems as though Kathleen Kennedy is trying to remind us, hey, this is Disney now. That sort of thing. And this is like Kathleen Kennedy putting her Disney magic gold dust on this movie rather than trying to be an Indiana Jones movie, right? Like in some parts it is, but but I feel like completely overshadows because of Helena Shaw, right? And then of course the story too. Like I feel like the story could have been better. Like the writing in the story could have been a lot better. Although the idea, and then of course Indy's characterization as well, like his characterization of him losing Marion and Mutt, it makes the fourth movie completely pointless. Like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, say what you will about that movie, but that movie at least had a good ending and it ended Indy's adventure, right? Or at least I think it did, right? Even though Mutt Williams tried to wear the hat, but Indy was like, nope, I'm the real deal. That sort of thing. Yeah, it's just like it's like Kathleen Kennedy completely took what made Indiana Jones so good and just completely dethroned him back down to level 1, right? He was like top tier level 10 character. But now he's just basically back to square one, right? She even did the same thing to Han Solo in Star Wars The Force Awakens, right? Where he lost his rebel status, Princess Leia, and is basically back to being a smuggler, right? or a bounty hunter, right? Although I still enjoyed Harrison Ford's performance, you know, and of course the whole thing, you know, of Indy and Han regaining everything throughout the movie. Yeah, like I can't believe Kathleen Kennedy did that for Indiana Jones. Like for Han Solo, I mean, okay, Han Solo, maybe for Han Solo, but when you do it for Indiana Jones, both played by the same actor, by the way, you know you've done something wrong. Hmm? I mean, sure, they did that with Luke. I mean, sure, they did that with Luke Skywalker. So, like it seems as though Kathleen Kennedy has this vision of like, oh, we'll take everything, we'll make this character famous, and we'll have him go back to square one, and then regain it all back throughout the movie, right? Kathleen Kennedy, it may work, it might have worked the first time, but the second or third time, you should not have done that. I'm sorry, you should not have done that. You should not have take everything what made the character so great and just put that character back down to square one and regain it. Like, look, it can work it done right. Maybe for Han Solo in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, okay. Maybe just for that one time, yeah. But for two or three times, no, no. That one time should have been enough. That's just my opinion, though. But Anyway, but anyway, I still enjoyed Harrison Ford's performance, and I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I mean, I've already said enough about Helena's character. I already said enough about Helena, but I thought Phoebe was okay with the material that she was given. All right, I'm just gonna say that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was okay with the material that she was given, but she wasn't really that much of a standout. And while I'm on the subject though, John Reese Davis, I thought he was okay. John Reese Davis, Toby Jones, I thought they were both fine. They were both fine despite of what they were given. They were both fine. Antonio Banderas, on the other hand, I thought he was good, but he was more of a cameo at this point. Mads Mikkelsen, on the other hand, though, look, I love Mads Mikkelsen. Like he played the main villain. He played the main James Bond villain in the Casino Royale movie. I haven't seen that movie, but I have seen a couple of clips, and he was pretty good in it. I liked his role in the first Doctor Strange movie, where he goes up against Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. I thought that was pretty fun, even though they didn't do much with his character. I thought he was a pretty good addition. His role in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story was also good too, but at the same time, his role in Mufasa: The Lion King wasn't that great. Like, I don't know what's up with Disney and Mads Mikkelsen. Did Disney put a contract on Mads Mikkelsen to appear in an Indiana Jones movie, Star Wars movie, Marvel movie, and a live action Disney remake? Is that what Disney's doing? And I feel like two out of the four films that he was in were pretty good, like Doctor Strange and Solo: A Star Wars Story. Although I guess you can argue that Mads Mikkelsen was pretty good in this movie, but I don't know. Two out of the four movies that he was in from Disney were pretty good. I mean, his role as Voller was good, but at the same time, him and of course Boyd Holbrook they were just there. They were just there, including the big guy too. Even the big guy that Oliver Richards played was pretty wasted in this movie too. But that's just my opinion. I mean, they were still intimidating at the same time, but not as memorable as Indiana Jones 1 and 3, right? I mean, but to be fair, the Nazis are the best Indiana Jones villains. To be quite honest, though, the movie's still fun. The action sequences, they weren't that great, but they were still fun, though. I liked the train sequence, the horse ride that Indy was on, and the car chase. Those were the only three action sequences that I actually liked from this movie. But the train sequence though, oh man, as artificial as the visuals were in that sequence, it was still good. Including the fight that Indy had with Weber on top of the train. It was still a good fight though. I mean, the opening sequence, I mean, everybody's going to be talking about the opening sequence. Like, the opening sequence was obviously the best part of this movie. It's like in Saving Private Ryan, where the opening sequence, you know, the battle of Omaha, the Omaha Beach battle that in Saving Private Ryan that Steven Spielberg did. that opening scene was like a half hour long, and that's clearly the best sequence to come out of that movie. Same with the opening sequence for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's kind of like a what if Steven Spielberg did a fourth Indiana Jones movie in the 90s, right? But also to mention too, I didn't really care about Teddy Kumar in this movie at all. Like, despite he was just there, he was just there. Some of the other scenes, though, look, I like the underwater sequence too. I thought that was something that was also nice. Something that the Indiana Jones movies didn't really do. Like an underwater sequence. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course, let's see. The ending was okay. I did hear rumors. I mean, obviously it was backed up, but of course the whole time traveling thing was like, it was a controversial thing in my opinion, because let's be honest, how many movies can you think that have done time travel, right? Like Terminator, Back to the Future, Time Comp, even Avengers Endgame did that, right? But let's be honest, the Back to the Future trilogy did it the best, in my opinion. While I'm also on the subject of that, Kathleen Kennedy was also executive producer on all three Back to the Future movies, by the way, right? Get it? Even Spielberg and Frank Marshall as well, right? Although it would have been interesting if Voller went back in time to 1939, but knowing the fact that this movie foreshadowed the Battle of Syracuse, because there was actually a puppet show that foreshadowed the Battle of Syracuse, where the Romans were also fighting dragons, right? Even the one Roman soldier sees the airplane and thought that it was an actual dragon, right? Firing at the Romans, right? That's nice foreshadowing too, including the class presentation that Indy did at the beginning of the movie as well. So nice foreshadow right there. Also to mention too, another thought that I had about this movie is the visual effects. The de-aging effect on Harrison Ford is really good. There are moments where it's a bit off, but it's still good. The de-aging technology was actually, in my opinion, the best part of that opening sequence, by the way. Seeing a young Harrison Ford with that de-aging technology, oh man, that was good. And while I'm at it, you could definitely tell that Harrison Ford is basically, talking in his old man voice. Someone actually went back and tried to, try to do something with his voice just to make it sound young, right? Someone actually went back, took that scene with the de-aging effect for his face, but also his voice, adding a de-aging voice technology for Harrison Ford's voice, right? Although it would have been interesting to hear that in this movie, but not really. But at the same time, I like the de-aging effect. Also to mention this too, the visual effect, the rest of the visuals in this movie felt artificial at best. And that is saying something too. This whole movie feels like it was shot on green screen using CGI, right? And the visuals were not that great. The visuals were not that great. It felt pretty artificial. Like the train sequence felt artificial, but it was still a fun sequence. Even some of the obvious green screens during the Battle of Syracuse was pretty obvious. You could definitely tell they're in a green screen. And then, of course, whenever Indy's riding on the horse, you could definitely tell it was a stuntman, and they had to like digitally put Harrison Ford's face on it, right? And then I guess you could say some of the confetti in the parade was a bit fake too, but even though they did shot it on location, they still used visual effects for that parade, by the way. But yeah, the visual effects were pretty hit or miss in this movie, and the music in this movie was also good too. Like John Williams. Is there anything to say about this guy? John Williams has made some of the best, some of the greatest movie scores of all time, and he definitely deserved that Oscar nomination. Although I will say it's not his most memorable Indiana Jones movie score, but it's still a good score. Like you still get the themes from the other Indiana Jones movies that were actually incorporated in this movie pretty good. But also some of the new stuff too, right? Like especially Helena's theme. I think it's Helena's theme that landed him that Oscar nomination, if I'm not mistaken. But at the same time, John Williams, he really did a real good job on making the score for all five Indiana Jones movies. In hindsight, I wish the story was a little better, most notably for Helena Shaw, and of course the characterization for Indy. I wish that was a little better than what we got. I feel like we should not be reminded. I mean, yeah, I get it that this is a Disney movie, but at the same time, you should remind the audience that this should be an Indiana Jones movie, not a Disney version of Indiana Jones, right? Like, yeah, I get it. Disney, we get it. You own Indiana Jones, but that doesn't mean you should remind the audience that hey, this is Disney Indiana Jones, not the Indiana Jones that Paramount did. Also, a side note too, Michael Eisner actually worked for Paramount before he transitioned to Disney. By the way, just to throw that out there. But yeah, I feel like Disney should maybe Disney should let go of like, hey, we're reminding the audience that we run this joint now, right? Like, come on, man. Like let's not remind people that hey, yeah, we can still let people know that Disney's doing this, but don't remind them that hey, we're Disney, right? Try to be Indiana Jones, right? But of course, this is the last Indiana Jones movie, by the way. Just to yeah, everybody. I'm pretty sure that is obvious, by the way. And of course, obviously enough, everybody was like on board. Everybody was jumping on the bandwagon when they were giving bad reviews before it was released in theaters. By the way, right? Like, yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, you can definitely tell not everyone was on board in this movie at all. And also, to add insult to injury, there was a movie that came out of nowhere during Fourth of July week when Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was out, and that movie is called Sound of Freedom. Like, yeah, there is a movie that came out the same weekend as Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny called Sound of Freedom from Angel Studios. That movie came out July 4th, while Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, that movie came out on June 30th, 2023, and that was right around 4th of July week, right? And Sound of Freedom, and get this, Sound of Freedom is about Tim Ballard, who is a former US government agent who embarks on a mission to rescue children from sex traffickers in Colombia. And that movie had a budget of $14.5 million and made $251 million on the same week Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny came out. And also at one point 20th Century Fox was going to distribute this movie before Disney bought Fox and shelved this movie until Angel Studios brought back Sound of Freedom. So, you know it's bad enough when Disney shelved a movie about a former US government agent embarking on a mission to rescue children from sex traffickers from Colombia, a movie that made its money back over a film with a big budget that didn't make its money back and came from a popular franchise. That is telling you something, right? That is telling you something that a film out of nowhere can dethrone a popular film franchise, right? Even though Dial of Destiny made a little more money than Sound of Freedom actually made its money back. Yeah, that's telling you something, Disney. Mm-hmm. Yep, that is telling you something. You know you screwed up when when a film that came out of nowhere did a much better job of telling a good story, right? Mm-hmm. And that was from Angel Studios, by the way. And that was from Angel Studios, by the way. So yeah. Also, one last thing to mention. My ranking on this movie. Well, if I were gonna give a ranking on this movie, it sounds like I'm giving this movie too much credit, to be quite honest, which I am. I'm just gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, it definitely sounds like I'm giving this movie too much credit, but of course, the characterization of Indiana Jones, Helena Shaw, and the story, it wasn't really that great. And of course, some of the visuals as well. The movie itself, it's watchable. The movie itself is watchable. You would definitely enjoy a fun ride to it, especially for the final Indiana, especially since the movie is basically the last movie in the franchise. But also to bring this up, the whole ending of Indy and Marion, that was actually an ending that was actually reshot because apparently the original ending was the filmmakers were originally going to kill off Indiana Jones, which in my opinion that does not sound good at all. I don't think killing off your main character does not sound good. And also to mention, Indiana Jones also there's also a young Indiana Jones show that featured old man Indiana Jones, by the way. So killing him off in the movie, that would not sit well, especially for a show that features old man Indiana Jones, right? Which would not sound good. So I am glad that we got this ending, but I don't think this ending kind of helped a little bit. I wish we would have gotten more screen time with Marion Ravenwood and Sala, right? They should have had bigger roles. Even Karen Allen kind of disappointed with the lack of screen time that she had, right? But yeah, but anyway, 6.5 out of 10. I think that's I know it sounds like I'm giving you too much credit, but that's how I'm seeing it for this movie. I mean, it's watchable, it's fun, even if it's not perfect, though. But other than that, that is pretty much it. I don't know what the future of Lucasfilm is going to be like, especially for Kathleen Kennedy. Like her next couple of movies, she has The Mandalorian Grogu, which is coming out sometime this year, and then of course another Star Wars movie too with Ryan Gosling and Sean Levy, Star Wars Starfighter, which is coming out in 2027. So yeah, we got The Mandalorian Grogu and Star Wars Starfighter. Two different Star Wars movies coming out from Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. I don't know the whole outcome of that, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So there you have it, folks. That is my take on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And to anybody who's listening, if I'm missing out from anything from this movie, please let me know in the comments below. And let me know your thoughts on this movie too. I would love to hear your thoughts. What did you guys think of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? Did you like this movie? Did you not like this movie? Did you think this movie was okay? Do you think this movie was a good send-off for Indiana Jones? Do you think Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the worst of the Indiana Jones movies? But I want to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below. So with that being said, that will be a wrap for this episode. Thank you all for tuning into Codo Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Remember to watch movies and stay positive.